Something that I really enjoy doing with my camera is adapting vintage lenses to it. But despite the enjoyment I get from using old lenses on digital cameras, sometimes it can be inconvenient to just have extra equipment between each adapter ring for each mount of each lens. That said, I went on the market to find something that could get me a vintage look on a budget, and so I came across this very awesome lens. So in today's video, I'll be reviewing the TTArtisan 35mm f1.4 lens and talking about why I consider it to be a modern day vintage lens. The lens comes in this really nice box that wouldn't have you believing it's priced at $73. It includes the documentation, silica packet, and of course the lens itself. The lens comes with a rear plastic cap that screws onto the mount and an all-metal screw-in front cap, which in my opinion isn't really that bad. Honestly, I'd prefer one of the standard pinch-in lens caps that you see on any other lens. So I was really surprised with the lens when I first got it in the mail, because the first thing that I noticed as I opened the box was the fact that it's just a really small lens. And I mean, comparing it to something like the 23mm f2, it's at least half an inch smaller or shorter in length compared to the Fujifilm lens. So just having this really small lens on an already small camera is really nice, and it's very compact. It's all manual, so there's no autofocus capabilities. There aren't any EXIF data that gets fed to the camera because there are no contact points to the camera when you look at the mount. That said, the mount itself is all metal as well. There are no weather sealing gaskets, so that's just something to keep in mind when you're pairing it with a weather sealed camera. Going into the actual lens itself, the focusing ring is really well dampened and it's super smooth. The aperture ring itself is clicked, and it clicks in half stops. So from f1.4 to the half stop to f2, and so on and so forth until you get to f4. So then from f4, it goes to f5.6 to 8 to 16. Whenever you shoot this lens wide open, it really does produce a lot of really beautiful bokeh. So it's a really nice lens to use for portraits or, just getting very blurry backgrounds or anything, I guess, out of focus, or just getting really good bokeh. I also forgot to mention that it has an all matte finish, which pairs really nicely with the Fujifilm cameras. According to the description for the lens, it's using the Sonnar optical design, which, as far as I understand it, is an old design used in vintage lenses. Theoretically speaking, the fact that TTArtisan opted for a Sonnar optical design for their lenses really kind of goes to show that using this lens can more or less give you a vintage feel with the pictures it produces. As far as image quality goes, the lens produces really beautiful photos. Shooting it at f1.4 gives incredible results. Whatever's in focus is really sharp. And something that I noticed with the lens is that it gives off a kind of a glow to it, and it's really interesting. I think it adds a little character to the photo. Whenever you stop down the aperture ring, it increases the sharpness and the contrast. So you can also get really sharp results just by stopping down. Whenever you shoot wide open, there is chromatic aberration, and it's kind of to be expected. The chromatic aberration sometimes has a green tint. Sometimes in some photos, I've noticed it turn red. But it's largely minimal and it's really negligible. And as far as a drawback, it's really not that big of a deal in my opinion. That's not to mention that you can also mitigate the chromatic aberration when you're editing the photos in post. It's really fun to use, especially the fact that it's all manual. And if you're a Fuji shooter like me, just having manual aperture ring, manual focus, and the dials, it's just very tactile to use. So it's the lens that lives on my camera. Unfortunately, sorry Fujifilm lens. I've used this a lot just for fun and in my just some personal photos, but would I use it for professional work? Maybe. I've tried using it in some photo shoots, in some studio photo shoots rather. Chromatic aberration might be an issue there, but if you stop down the lens anyway, then it pretty much goes away. So you could potentially use it for professional work, but maybe, yeah, actually, you know what? Don't take that from me. That's your own decision to make, but I myself might try to use it in some paid gigs and see how it turns out. I might make a video about it, talking about, I guess, the lens. All things considered, the lens has a lot of good features to it, and for its price point, you really can't go wrong with it, so I'd highly recommend it. Okay, so thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in, thanks for staying to the end of this video. Tune in next week for the next video. Follow me on social media. And again, thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your week.